Welcome to the Morse Code Podcast, where we talk with entrepreneurially minded creatives in music, film, and writing. My name's Corby, and I'm hoping these conversations inspire you to push deeper into your own work, whether you're a full-time professional or just starting out on your own creative odyssey. Spencer Thomas is a songwriter and a multi-instrumentalist and mainstay of the Athens scene. He just released a record I like a lot called The Joke of Life. You should listen to it. He plays keys for Futurebirds. He writes songs that feel like a late night walk alone in a neighborhood where everyone's asleep except for the house cats. And as it turns out, he's good at talking about music and his approach to making it. For this taping of the podcast, he drove up from Athens and parked his car in front of my house. I went out and met him on the sidewalk and suggested we go for a walk around the block to, unwind and be friends. It was the first time we ever met. Our conversation started right there and continued down the street and back, and it almost felt incidental when we finally sat down and turned on the mics. If you're watching this, you can see that our new studio is very much under construction. We've got big plans and a lot more room, and currently my hands are covered in paint, but we're gonna get this thing done because my wife and I are about 2 seconds away from having our first child, after which it's, all bets are off. I truly have no idea what's about to happen. If you haven't yet, do subscribe on your platform of choice and write me a review. It doesn't even have to be a nice review. I'll read it. Follow us on the Morse Code Podcast and shoot me a comment or a note or a message or a text if you know my number. And let me know who you'd like to have on here, who you'd like to hear on here. It finally feels like we got a little feeling going. And speaking of good feelings, here's my conversation with Spencer Thomas. Spencer Thomas, I'm just interrupting our conversation to say welcome to the podcast and thank you for your time and your drive. Mm-hmm. I'm excited about this, man. I've been looking forward to it for a while.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad, and thank you for introducing me to a little walk around your neighborhood before we got started. Just as a cool down and also a warm up.
Yeah, man. Mm-hmm. It's a buffer, the walk buffer, and also it's October something, and maybe the nicest evening that we've had in a really long time here in Nashville. So got to show it off to the visitor.
It's my favorite month.
Oh man, it's the poets month, the poets season, really autumn. I feel like. Yeah. I'm sure there's a Robert Frost poem about that. I was about to recite Two Roads Diverged in Yellowwood, but I'm going to spare us all that. I thought one way that we could get into this conversation is to talk about how you set about recording the newest record, which is just out right now, The Joke of Life. And I'm going to stop right there and say that's where I thought maybe we could start. And maybe the first question is, did you have a vision to record that kind of in the Athens scene that you're part of from the outset, or was that just a product of circumstance?
A bit of both, because I put out my first record in 2019, which I feel like everybody's first record is just whatever songs they have lying around, that equals a record.
It's got to start somewhere. Totally.
Yeah, and so I did that in Mississippi. I went to Dialback Sound, which is Matt Patton, who plays bass in Drive By Truckers. It's his studio out there in Water Valley, Mississippi, which is a great place to check out if you're looking for a new space to record.
Shout out
in a
to
small
Water Valley.
town.
Yeah,
Water Valley, Dialback Sound. So that's where I did the first record, and then I feel like everybody who writes songs kind of finish a record and maybe feel like they're out of songs. Like their bank is just empty, or like the best work is behind them. I think that, even if you don't quite want to admit it, I feel like there's always a little bit of that. And so I felt like I just needed to do some exploring, and, lucky for me, but unfortunate for all of us, the pandemic came through, and I had just moved back from Jackson, Mississippi proper, to my parents' home in Madison, Mississippi. Mm-hmm. And I was just, in order to keep from going completely crazy, I would get up at, 7 or 8 a.m., grab a cup of coffee, and go into the room across that was once my sister's room. Now Mom has just done them up to be guest rooms,
As moms do when the kids fly the coop.
Right.
It's their right.
It is their right.
Reclaim that room.
And so I'd sit there, journal, pen, coffee, guitar, 1 hour timer on the phone, and just finish something in that hour.
Start, finish. 1 hour.
Finish.
Timer going.
Song, you know? And I mean, like, songs can always be edited, but I wanted to get it done in that hour and just see what I could produce and, like, not think about whether it's a good song or not. Just, like, put points on the board.
Yeah.
And then just decide what's good after that. And so that's when I started scratching the surface at something a little bit different. I was also extremely deep into some Warren Zevon. I was reading his books.
I hear that, and I read it too in the bio on the website.
Yeah.
So you're reading some Warren Zevon books, not just the music. So that's some discipleship.
Yeah.
Fair to say.
Yeah. I mean, you know, I wasn't following his path quite in his behavior, but, like, you know, of course my dad has Excitable Boy and probably a couple other records somewhere in his stash. But I really wanted to lean into the piano work because I was a drummer for a while in a band called Young Valley based out of Jackson, and I was playing drums and singing, do like the kind of lefty Levon Helm thing. And I was writing songs with those other two guys, and I really was really wanting to do more melody. I love playing drums. I miss playing drums now. It's funny, you miss the thing that you're not doing, but I was really drawn to the piano. They would always kind of chuckle because anytime we were in a space that had a piano, I'd always just run to it and just be drawn to it. And so Warren and Jackson Browne, of course, who we were talking about before we started, huge influences. And I just wanted to dig in, and I wanted to hear something different. And I felt like I was very much like a Tom Petty, Bruce Springsteen, like 3 or 4 chords and the truth, and always with a guitar. And so it was nice to take that shift. And he had like a tinge of classical music. I think he kind of wanted to be a composer when he started making music before he really took songwriting seriously. And this
is Zevon you're talking about.
Zevon.
Yeah.
So and Zevon was really into that kind of composition. Like you can hear it in some of the Excitable Boy songs. And
it's not just 3 chords and a truth.
Yeah.
And the truth. And I feel like that's part of it goes with composing on piano. It's just a different compartment in your brain.
Yeah.
I say this as somebody who's written on piano as well, and have some knack and a lot of interest, a lot more interest than knack for it. But anyway, continue. So you got more into the piano, or you in that season, and maybe I kind of want to ask, was it hard to sort of translate your melodic inclinations to the keyboard? Because that can be formidable for, it can be a challenge for people. It's easy to play 3 chords on a guitar. It's a little bit different to kind of think about that. Maybe you're only playing in G and D and C, and that can definitely simplify things. But even then, it's just voicings and stuff. It's just a little bit more challenging, especially at the beginning. Was that challenging for you?
I was kind of used to it. Like I knew my way around the piano enough to translate from guitar to piano, but I find that I really like a lot of chromatic movement, and you can probably hear that just in the Joke of Life as a song. Most of it is just kind of stuff moving up and down, and that's not something that I frankly have the skill to do on guitar. I'm very much like a cowboy chord guitar player, and I don't want to keep saying this and boxing myself in, because I am trying to explore a little more.
Snapshot of life at this moment.
Yeah, at this moment, I am improving my guitar skills beyond the chords. But with the piano, I think I just would naturally write differently. And I'm sure that you probably feel this too. There's just an inclination to do something differently on the piano. And so I wanted to chase that with these like very simple yet complex lyrical phrases that Warren Zevon has. And, you know, I really like the fact that, you know, like Tom Petty and Bruce Springsteen are more like tear out on your own, like love. And there was a lot of a certain feeling and meaning in their music that I took from. And from his, it was kind of like the like chuckle behind a heartbreaking line, you know, just, and I loved that. And that's why I think I just really took to The Joke of Life and tried to have more of a, I mean, I wouldn't say that it's necessarily lighthearted because the record is not really that way, but just try to have a lighter outlook on maybe even more difficult moments. And
a light touch is maybe not a terrible way to put it. Which I get that. There's
a terrible way to put it.
That isn't a terrible way to put it. Yeah. But like having kind of a wry smile, you know, as your heart's being broken is sort of like there's a little bit of a wisdom there.
Yeah.
That's just like, this isn't the end of the world. There's a little bit of hope implied in that, you know.
Yeah.
Just because I'm just going to make a small comparison just because it's fresh in mind. But like I was saying, maybe off mic, I've just been listening to the new Dawes record, and Dawes Goldsmith's writing it's of a piece. I think even record to record, there's sort of this feeling behind it of like, it's okay. Even if there's heartbreaking moments, there's like end of the world vibes in some of the songs. But there's still kind of this like, there's a sense of humor in it, and with that sort of a permission to feel like okay and even hopeful in spite of this impending doom that is felt maybe by a lot of people. Yeah. So, you know, I can relate.
Yeah. I mean, that was a bit of what I wanted to capture. Yeah. And I think that, you know, the first spark, the first set of songs I feel like really came through when I was in that pandemic moment, when I was at my folks' house. And I knew that I was going to move to Athens, you know.
Why Athens?
No shade on Nashville, but I didn't really quite feel like that was for me or not for me yet. And I already had some friends in Athens and like had ties to it. And whenever I toured there, I just liked the feeling that it had. And I knew that good work came out of it. It came out of the town and the scene, and so I thought, you know, try it for a year or two and just see if that's a good place to start. And keep in mind that was August 2020. So
I was gonna say like cool. So pandemic had hit, and
it was very much there. You know, I mean, people weren't playing shows. It wasn't like the downtown Athens. There are bands in these bars playing. Like it just wasn't. You know, people are like, well, you're not here when Athens is what it is.
Yeah.
And I never lived by myself before. I've always had a roommate due usually to financial situations or I was, you know, at home. And so when I got out there, and I had a few friends, but, you know, we were still kind of being cautious, just going and hanging out in people's backyards. I was just taking walks, watching movies. I was, you know, unemployed at the moment. I eventually started teaching lessons, wearing masks, but still having, you know, a distance from everyone. And I think that a lot of the songs came through because of that time, because I had to entertain myself and also make sense of the solitude I was feeling. Are
you an introverted person by type?
Yeah,
would you say?
I would say that I'm an, introverted extrovert, sort of like you kind of if you break me out of the shell, I'm here to chat, but most of the time I'll lay home. I'm at home. I don't just like go out somewhere by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I feel like the pandemic was a lot easier on introverts than another kind. And I'll say that, I've played the 40 Watt, and I'm thinking of bands that have come out of Athens even more recently. Lara Lynn, who lives here in town, she broke out of the Athens scene. And
I didn't know that.
Yeah, she was there for a long time. And more recently, there's a band, Hotel Fiction. Do you know that band?
Yeah, I know.
They have some local kids.
Yeah, I know them.
They're busting out. They're playing here at the East Room in a couple of weekends. I'm going to go catch the show.
Cool.
Just for some youth. And I will say that, just like what you said, about your intuition about wanting to move to Athens instead of like come here. And I think that's a wonderful choice. And I think I say this as somebody who was 30 when I moved to Nashville, and never felt an inclination to go to some major center at all. I never wanted to do that from my small town. I grew up in a little town in Idaho, and so partly that was because it was just like that's what happened out there, and I didn't have any connection to that world. But also I felt like intuitively I just wanted to have time to find out who I was, and I think I'm just really slow about everything I do. And so I lived in Bellingham, Washington for about 10 years, and that was sort of my Athens. I had a bluegrass band up there, and it was like that's when I kind of found my influence that has been a North Star of sorts to this day. I had time to like check out a whole bunch of stuff in absence of any sort of pressure to be an artist or a person, with whose name was on a CD or something like that. I didn't have to think about it that way. And I think that's a really good way to go for young people. This is me ranting for just a second, but I think that there's this great, the downside of coming to like Belmont when you're a kid from your small town and like being a vocal major is you don't have any time to find out what you are apart from like the very pop and commercial oriented music that surrounds you. And consequently there's there can be a shallowness that comes with that because you're ignorant of all of this rich music of the past that isn't directly reflected in the the world around you. And if you have time to like step back from that and just sort of incubate in a sort of environment absent of any pressure, you will naturally move toward things and even have seasons in that. And then having like had a rich sort of exposure to a lot of different things, can you kind of start to come up with maybe something original?
Yeah.
The downside of that is that then you're older and you're maybe not, behind in the game, quote unquote. But then the upside of that is, what does that even mean to be behind or ahead in this day and age? So, anyway.
That is an excellent question. And I have definitely thought a lot about that. Especially like Hotel Fiction and a lot of other bands that are around that age in Athens, there's a gap. Like they're probably they're in their like early mid 20s zone. And so they've got that same energy that I had where we're like, we're going out, we're playing everywhere as much as we can.
Yeah.
And they're doing it. And I'm so proud of them because I met Jess and Jade like 4 years ago. And they're like, yeah, we're just, trying to do this thing. And they've really taken it and run with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And I'm going to that show because I listen to the records and I hear a spirit in it that is absent in this town of professionals. And there's just something that happens when you're around, and I love it here. I mean, I've lived here 20 years and it's been wonderful to me, and I've learned so much. I met so many people and I've been challenged, and that's a whole other conversation. But there is this sort of like pressure to make it pay. And there's this there's something that just like terrible that comes with education. It's like, it's the same thing as whenever I was like, I'm still just, I'm in my guitar growth, and I hope I will be my whole life. But even early on, when I was like listening to Tony Rice all the time, and I'd like hear a lick that just like destroyed me, I just like melted my brain. Like, what is that? Like, and then I'd sit there and learn it, get it. So it was in my hand. And the strangest thing happened is that like, when the mystery went away, when I learned how to do it, it was cool to be able to do it, but there was something lost in that as well. And that was a strange experience when I was younger. And it's happened over and over again, where I'm like, oh, that's the consequence of of just learning, of being more educated. And I think that just to extrapolate that and put it on this culture in Nashville is there's this like a lot of very smart people and a lot of very studied people and a lot of very talented and driven people, and there's not a lot of ignorance. And I just love it, fucking ignorant music. I don't know how else to put it. Yeah. And there's like, when I listen to that Hotel Fiction record, I feel some of that energy I felt when I didn't know a damn thing. And I just sang what I felt, and that is so exciting to be around.
Yeah.
And, anyway, that's why I'm going to that show. But that's what's kind of in there in the water in Athens and Akron, anywhere that's not. Like, people are always like, should we move to Nashville? Should I go there? I'm like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
It's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I didn't want to be the another starry-eyed white guy with an acoustic guitar getting off the bus.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's always room for more.
I don't mean that as a dig to anybody, but that was just like personally not my journey. It's not a city that I have necessarily felt like I want to live here sort of thing. And not yet, at least.
Sure.
Yeah. But I love that you said that, because it feels strange when you have written songs that you feel are very good, excellent even, and then when you're back to the drawing board, you write songs that are bad in order to get to ones that are good. And I feel like each rung up, I personally feel like I almost doubt myself more as I climb further, because I think so much of the wool is pulled back, instead of being explorative, like you were saying, and just singing whatever you feel, you begin to stop yourself more and be like, this isn't what a professional would write, you're trying to, no, we're writing songs. This is like the kid with crayons moment, explore, write about whatever. And I find myself currently in this state, joke of life, record aside, I'm here for promotional effort. But I mean, like, in my personal state right now, I find myself having to be like, it's time to dig in the dirt again. And it feels like there's a lot of dirt, but I got to find those little golden nuggets again. And I don't think you ever really quite stop digging. And I think it becomes a little harder to swallow as you get older, because you think in your mind, well, I should be able to pump out good stuff. But that's just not how good stuff works.
Yeah.
It's like channeled through you when you're ready for it. And when you have the message that lands on your tongue,
Yeah. And it's good stuff that's a great way to put it. It's also such an ineffable term, because it's not, art isn't about some kind of mastery. You know what I mean? It's like, it's so weird. It's like what a song that spoke to you when you wrote it when you were 25 and you're like, damn, I just wrote a good song. You kind of know it. There's something happened and you went, whoa, I just wrote a good song. Maybe it catches you by surprise. Well, that was that moment, and that's wonderful. And it's like we're seeking that next time, and you write these 5 songs there are 25 songs in between then and the next really good one. And there's aspects of something wonderful, maybe, hopefully, in each or some of them, but it's not like a linear process, and it's not like a measurable, quantifiable thing. We're like, oh, this song, that clever rhyme right there makes this song better than another. It's something ineffable, you know, and it's like. It makes me like I'm shaking right now thinking about it because it's really serious, you know,
and it's seriously frustrating. Yeah, it can be, and then also like it can be just it can be exhausting to work on it. You know, you have a couple of different kinds of people where they go like, I'm not going to work on writing a song for a few months, and then I just sit down and write something. And I'm like, all right, cool. Mm-hmm. They write something that feels good, and they move on. And I'm one of the guys where I'm like, I gotta get it going. I gotta get going first, you know, because I have to get past that space where it's so precious to me. Yeah. Because I'm like, you put words out on the paper every day. You play chords every day. You're gonna find something. Yeah. You know. But I gotta be in that zone in order to like get down to it.
Be in it all the time. You're saying, yeah. I think that's why I wanted to talk to you too, because just on your Instagram, you post a lot of like song fragments and stuff of you. And I think that there was one that really spoke to me, and it was just about like why we write the song. This is 2 months ago, you know, it's like, and I even texted you about it, and you're like, oh yeah, that was just like, that was that day's work, you know, something like that. And I was like, that's cool. That's a testament to just going to the well every day and just got like scooping out a little bit more water and feeding that thirst. I think too about when I was touring a lot, it was so great in the sense of like getting better as a performer because no one show mattered. That was so much better than when I was really young, and I would like, you know, I had my band, my bluegrass band, say in Bellingham, we had a show coming up in a month, and I was like, oh, it's coming, oh, it's 22 days, oh, I would be so excited about it, and also just like so much pressure, this has got to destroy, you know, and then it would be whatever it was, it probably was not that great, but I had built it up in my mind so much that there was a lot of pressure going into it, whereas when it was just a part of my rhythm in my life, that was such a, you know, it was better, the music was better, it was better for my mental health, and there was just less pressure. It was just a thing I did, and having that be part of your identity as an artist, I feel like is really, I don't know, it makes it easier to just keep doing it. It's just like, this is just what I do, you know. It's like maybe today's version is good.
I mean, now my routine is not stunning. I don't want it to sound like I'm digging every day, and I would like to think that I try to make the attempt, and I feel like that is just when the channels are open to receive the good thing. You know, the like you said, is like, it's relative, but to receive that little, that line, that melody idea, just kind of keeping the channel open or keeping the faucet running, whatever you want to call it. But it is really just a lot of digging. And I think that, you know, like I told you about the Joke of Life, I had this very direct, influence, and I wanted something bigger. I'm like, I could use some strings, I could use some saxophone, I could use like different auxiliary instruments. I wanted to explore this sonic space that was bigger than my first record. My first record was like 4-piece band, maybe a little something, you know, one important harmony. I didn't want to break it, you know, so I just wanted to be very minimal. And then Joke of Life, I was like, let's go maximal. And then like let's just try to mold it like a piece of pottery. And now I'm just kind of looking for, I'm like, what's the next, like, I don't have that, like, that's the direction. Yeah. And that's what I'm looking for by digging through the dirt right now.
When did you record the record?
It was over the course of, I started doing the basics in like September of 2021. And, but I even recorded the song Desperate Man, the kind of rockin' track 4, I believe. Very Springsteen, very you know, we recorded that actually in November of 2020. And that was with some of my Athens guys. That was when I first like broke ground into working with the people in the Athens area. Luckily, I already had some friends like Lars and Will Hefner. They're twin brothers. They live in Athens, and Lars is an excellent guitar player. Will's an excellent drummer. They both played on the record, so they were there to help assist with that. Obviously, the Futurebirds guys helped me get in touch with some of the right people in order to, kind of form this ragtag team. Like, it wasn't the same drummer every track. It wasn't the same bass player every track. I just was like, who is going to create the right feeling for this song specifically? And I just pieced it together, all while becoming the touring keys player for Futurebirds. Mm-hmm. So I was piecing it together and finally finished the masters about a year ago.
And did you produce it?
I did. Okay. Me and my friend Ryan Engelberger, we co-produced it because he started off as the assistant engineer, and Thomas Johnson, who plays in Futurebirds, he was originally the engineer. Had a baby, had to really push his time more towards family. And so Ryan was able to step in and engineer, and then he would play bass on a couple of things. I'm like, well, Ryan's really good at bass. And then Ryan was like, hey, have you ever done that thing where you record piano super slow, and then when you speed it up, it sounds like a harpsichord? And I'm like, no, I've never done that. And so his input became so crucial to the record that I'm like, well, Ryan, you co-produced this with me for all I'm concerned.
Yeah. I ask this because I just feel like there's more than one process to making a song. There's the writing process, which maybe is a solo effort or a collaborative effort if you have a co-writer, but the studio process can be so many things. And so I just wondered if obviously now that you're describing it, it was a collaborative thing, and it was I think that's to make a comparison to like film, that's where it really gets, in bands are the same way. It's just like the collaborative aspect of art is a kind of an extra joy of the whole process of doing it. I say this as somebody who's like mostly a solo kind of creator. I know this, like I like writing a lot. That's very lonely. Maybe a less loaded term would be, you do it in solitude. Yeah. Good words, Corb. But that's not even true, because like in film and TV writing, there's a lot of times like a writer's room, and that can be very collaborative. I just know that I'm drawn to that. I like solo writes, and I like when I play guitar and stuff, most of what I do there's something fun to play first. This is going to turn into a question. Like for me, all the songs I've written that have hung out, there are some exceptions, have something that was like, that I came up with that was fun to play on guitar. And I was like, oh, in order to like get to do this night after night, I have to put a song around it. And that's would kind of motivate the song. That would make me want to finish a song, just cause I would like do the verses and sing the chorus. And I'm kind of like looking forward to the solo part that I sort of worked out, you know what I mean? But that was like all kind of like a by myself sort of thing. And I noticed that for me, it's been challenging I've made 8 records and produced half of them probably myself. And I kind of end up like coming back to producing them myself, because I think I have a little bit of a control freak thing, or I'm like, take this thing that I do by myself and then like make it, I continue to do it into the studio, even with other people. And I don't say that to my credit. I even like, I had a friend, Skylar Wilson, produced my last record, and I think I had a pretty heavy thumbprint on that, on the way that album came out. Yeah. This is going to have a happy ending, which is that I just recorded a song with a friend of mine, Anthony DaCosta, who is a guitar player here in town, and he's in the tribe, man. He's like a weirdo and sees the world from a unique perspective and has talent to spare, but he's gotten into producing records. And I walked into the studio and had a song, and it was such a joy to just be like, it's kind of, I'm just you do, and
Yeah.
here's my song. And that was like an extreme version. I were like kind of handed the baton over, and was just like, send me a mix is basically what I said after I just did the performance, and I found it to be like incredibly rewarding, honestly, that approach. But anyway, do you have a feeling about any of what I said, or an inclination one to another? Do you get along well with others? Do you, have strong visions sometimes that you got to see through? And I don't know.
No, I got it. Yeah. I like to believe that when everybody is feeling good about a decision, it's just the best decision in the room. I may write the bulk of the song and the lyrics almost in their entirety by myself, unless I'm really having trouble finishing something. My friend Taylor Cotton, who he helped me with the third track on the record, Always Never You, because I was like, this needs a bridge or like something like where the chords change, and I didn't quite know what it was. And he was like, let's go fix it. And so I just sat in his backyard one day and we just figured it out. And so usually I like to start it by myself, because I'm like, I'm working on this thing. Like, don't see it, like don't see it. It's not done yet. Don't see it. And then when I feel really good about something, or I feel good enough about an idea, I usually send it to some of my other songwriter friends and go, is it good? Is it done? Is it good? Is it done? And then sometimes I'm already in love with the song and I'm like, I don't care what you say. It is good and it is done. But I do like that reinforcement, even though I usually like to start keeping it close to my chest. I'm kind of like, what are you drawing? And I'm like, I'm turning away because I just don't want, I don't want anyone to see what the scrappings are first, unless it's something that I'm sitting down with another person and I'm like, we're going to write a song today. It's somebody that I trust and I'm close with, because that's a personal thing to do,
Yes.
I feel like maybe in a place like Nashville, people do it in a more professional sense, that it's easier to just kind of get in that zone. But I feel like for me, whoever comes in my circle to write a song with me, they got to be like, we got to be tight. Yeah.
I totally hear you. And I feel like I've said some unpleasant things about my town. And I want to say something nice now, which is that you're right. There is a lot more co-writing that goes on here. But I would say that it still is like a very fraught situation every single time, because it is so personal. And one of the things I really like about this town is that it's sort of collaborative minded, and there is this kind of daring that, like, people here who thrive in the songwriting part of the community have the guts to just show up and try. And there's definitely like writers for whom it is a profession and a professional experience, and they're here to help you. They're going to bring to bear their arsenal to help you as an artist realize your probably commercially driven interests. Fine, great. But it's going to be, there's a crafty element to it. But then there's a lot of people here that are just like, yeah, let's write a song, man. Let's write. What are you feeling? Let's hang out and sip coffee and talk for 2 hours. And maybe you've never met this person before, but really quickly it can be a pretty intimate experience. And I've experienced that personally many times over the years here.
Cool.
So it's kind of weird, because I know exactly what you're saying. It's like very scary to let a stranger into your artist heart, and be like, I'm going to try some things. And in advance, they're like, half the shit's going to be stupid, what you're saying, or, you just don't even know what you're doing. For me, when I'm writing a song, it's just like, what? There's just things swimming around. I'm just trying to grab them and oh, not that one,
Yeah.
But to be able to like grab something and show it to somebody and have them, like they get a say in this. You have to be vulnerable with this person. That takes a lot. It's pretty scary.
Yeah.
But can be very rewarding. And
Yeah.
you often make a friend. You kind of make fast friends in town because you've kind of gone hard into a uncharted territory and emerged, partially victorious maybe if you
Yeah.
got finished a song. So
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah, you go. I do agree with that though. You go into a song with somebody, and then you kind of like, all right, we both kind of worn parts of our hearts on our sleeves, So like we've thrown out some ideas. We showed each other like our stupid ideas, and or like our not this but kind of like this ideas.
Yes.
And then you have a level of closeness because you have already let your guard down in some way in order to write a song. Because if you don't let your guard down in any way, then you probably didn't come up with anything very good.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you can't make art. You can't say something true without being vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And that is so contrary to how we present ourselves in our daily life. We present it, it's always shiny side out. Mm-hmm. It's just, hey, cool. Nice to see you, man. Mm-hmm. Just like, it's all kind of hidden in here. Yeah. And so that, it's a great risk to do that with somebody. Mm-hmm. Maybe this is a great moment to see if you were interested in playing a song. I mentioned that earlier. So
well, you mentioned Little Gold.
Yeah.
So
I'd love to hear
I'll
it.
play Little Gold.
Tell me, I read about the origin of this song in that Garden and Gun article, but maybe you could just share that with us here.
I feel like the first couple infatuations I had, I was a single man when I was living in Athens, and the first couple infatuations I had, especially during the pandemic time, were very, precious to me because, it was a lot of just like closed off. So when you meet somebody during that period and you start hanging out with them, it's like I'm kind of letting somebody in again, like very much exploring solitude. So I had met someone and was just spending time with her. I mean, like we were talking a lot on the phone and just kind of explored that space for a little while. And then she was like, well, I'm probably going to get promoted and move to LA for her job. And I was like, oh, well, that kind of sucks, I'm like, it was just like, it was innocent. She was on her way, and I kind of wrote this song about that, how it starts as one thing, but kind of expands into its own world.
Yeah.
And I placed this person as like a very driven, like ready to go off and do her own thing. And I'm like, the looking for a little gold is like, you're just out there trying to look for your best moments. And I wrote the song, and I sent it to my friend Schaefer Yana, who's a close friend of mine, great songwriter as well. And she read the lyrics and had a totally different interpretation of what I was talking about, to the point where she said, is this about a prostitute? Or sex worker is maybe the more appropriate term, but it just made me laugh because, at first I was like, what do you mean? This is me like writing this nice song for this nice girl. And I go back and I look at the lyrics and I go, oh, I guess you could take it that way. So, anyway, it's a good chuckle on stage, but like
I'm laughing.
Yeah. I mean, like, but you realize that there's really, 100 different interpretations for songs. And, like that, during South by Southwest, I went to the Hotel Van Zant to play very early for this Austin radio thing. And I played 2 songs from the record. I played How Come Heartbreak, and then I played Little Gold. And I shook hands with this guy who was in the next band that was about to perform on the radio show. And he was like, and I said, hey, I just played earlier. And he goes, oh, you were the guy that had the song about the little goat. And it's just like in that moment you're like,
yeah,
what makes you think this is about a goat?
He could have been messing with you too.
I don't know. It was like, it seemed like a very honest mistake. And I mean, of course, like I laughed it off. But it's just funny because you can't control what people hear and the way that they associate it, even if you have a very specific idea in your mind.
I mean, people have been talking about what Shakespeare meant by, this and that line for 400 years. So it's a story as old as time. It's pretty funny though.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear the song about the prostitute. I mean, that dear girl that you wrote the song for.
I see you walking down, going up. I see her out in Silver Lake. Does she ever feel tired of hustling? Does she ever wanna pump her brakes? So most of her furniture drove straight from one coast to the other. Does she always keep it light and loose to go wherever she will choose? Looking for a little gold, looking for a little gold. Never cared if her fortune's told. She's looking for a little gold. She's thinking purely in logistics. Don't take it like it's personal, while you wonder if she'll ever stay with you. She's easing her way down the road, looking for a little gold, looking for a little gold. Never cared if her fortune's told. She's looking for a little gold. It's only where she's going. Oh, it's never where she's been. Her homes are temporary, her lover's only friends. It's only where she's going. It's never where she's been. Her homes are temporary, oh, her lover's only friends. I see her driving after dark in the traffic of Echo Park. Did she ever find a place to rest? Did she find someone to suit her best? Oh, looking for a little gold, looking for a little gold. Never cared if her fortune's told. She's looking for a little gold. Oh, she's looking for a little gold. Yeah, looking for a little gold.
Man, that was fantastic. It reminded me of just this conversation about like collaborating and not collaborating and vulnerability has made me think about this, which is that we're all like in this moment in life, this is just, we're all on a journey. This is at this moment, October 17, 2024 is this moment in both of our journeys. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I'm going through right now is having, I was telling you on our walk that I wrote and shot this TV pilot kind of based in East Nashville about this folk singer. And I've been heavily involved in the film side of creativity for a number of years now, 4 or 5 years. And with that came like sort of, I was just like, chose to step away from just being in the music pursuit on a daily basis like I had been for 15, 20 years before that. But now I find myself a little bit on the other side of that, and with that has come this like, oh man, I'm a little out of practice. Like how do I ride a bike? And I wrote the last time I wrote a song was 3 months ago, and I actually really love that song, but I haven't put out any music in a while. But the thing that where I'm going with this is that I noticed that I do think that if you sit down for 1 second and wondering what you should do with your time on earth, or what would be something important to do, I think that your heart and your consciousness tells you in 1 second if you just sit there and are honest with yourself. And I noticed that when I have that moment of honesty with myself, it's like, you need to go out there and write some songs with some people. You need to get out there and co-write some more. And I know that it's probably true because it scares the shit out of me, because I'm out of practice with doing it. When I was doing it a lot, I was just like, it was that same thing. It's like, well, if this song doesn't work out today with this person, it's not the end of the world. And now I'm back to like 22-year-old Corby playing his first show being like, what if this doesn't work out with this person? What I can't do it anymore. It's like all gone. So this talk is making me, I'm reigniting my courage to go forth and take some shots and take some stabs at writing songs, because I remember, it's like, none of this matters in some really important way, in the best way, like I say that as like, cause, even when I'm writing, I cannot write, like if I'm writing a short story or an essay, if I have any pressure, any sense of like, this really matters. As soon as as soon as it like really matters, then I'm just like, I can't do it. Like I'm never going to be like this person. I have to be like, it doesn't even matter. Just toss it off. Just say something. Just think about how you feel and write that down, and just keep doing that. And it won't be perfect. But it won't be terrible, and no one cares about you, dude. And you're just like, life is flying by all of us. We're half awake to 90% of what's going on around us. So just like take a stab and make a thing. And if I have that, then I have a shot. Yeah. I can get out of my own way for at least a second. Yeah.
I have a great collaboration story that I'd like to share with you that just happened in June. So my friend Jordan Reynolds, she has a band called Rose Hotel. It's her own music, just under that name. And we are both on the same record label, Strolling Bones, based out of Athens. And we did some weekends of touring together with a whole band, and we played in each other's bands. So that way we could both play a 35, 40-minute set just between 5 people. And my friend John Restivo Jr., he plays in a band called CDSM and a few others in Atlanta. He has a little minibus that he and his band outfitted to be a touring vessel, so 2 couches. They like face each other. There's a little bunk that you can climb up to.
Awesome.
Right next to the AC unit if you just want to like get a little snooze in. So instead of my usual touring where I'm sitting in a van and we're all facing one direction, which makes it kind of hard to talk to each other. Yeah. We're all facing each other. And so I realized, I was like, well, it's really just the direction of the seats that make all the difference, and like feeling like you're in more of a like almost a small living room space. Yeah. We were in Greensboro, North Carolina. I am walking out through the parking lot, and it's just midsummer in North Carolina, so I'm basically just wearing swim trunks, a t-shirt, and Adidas slides for all of the riding until it's time to play the show. Yeah. And I'm stepping onto the bus, and I just like step in a fresh piece of gum, and I just like, rip that guy like this high in the air, and I just track it into the bus. And of course, John, just ready for anything, has a scraper, and he starts like scraping it out. And I start trying to get it off the bottom of my slide, and I was like, oh man, I got gum on my flip-flop. And then I And we also had my little guitar in there, and I just was like, that's like a Jimmy Buffett song. And I just started playing it, and then one line led to another. And on the way to Charlotte, we just wrote this entire song about this just like burnout kind of Key West beach bum, like getting kicked out of multiple bars. Yeah. And then like, the gum on my flip-flop thing could be symbolism, or it's like he just keeps stepping in gum. Like he just keeps getting into one unfortunate circumstance after the other. And it was so fun. Yeah. Everybody had a line to pitch that was good. And you know that feeling when everyone's like, oh, that one, that one, Yeah. And so I'm sitting there, I'm typing it down on my phone, and I'm just cackling away. Yeah. Where I'm like, why do I choose to sit at the house like this over a notebook when
totally staring out a window?
Yeah. When I could just invite a couple of people over and maybe we'll write something. Yeah.
Well, also when you're with more people and there's a social element to it, the songs are just inevitably a little bit more lighthearted because you're having a good time. Yeah. Whereas when you're by yourself, it's like you and God, or you and, it's like,
it's like, what am I wrestling with?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. It's which is accurately reflected in all of my songs. Man, this is great. So you're here, you're playing a show this weekend.
Yeah.
And, oh, wait, I want to ask you about this because, this doesn't, we don't have to put this on the podcast or not, because I'm not trying to call you out. But I noticed that you're on your website. You don't have your dates listed. There's like no dates. So my question is, do you not worry about keeping that up? And like, how do people know when you're playing? If just like the gram and that's enough? And is that how kids are doing it now?
I mean, that's actually a good reminder. This show at Vinyl Tap, my friend Alicia Gale just kind of pulled it together because I'm playing more of a private thing in Franklin and tomorrow, and so I'm like, well, I might as well play in Nashville proper.
Nice. You're playing tomorrow in Vinyl Tap?
I'm playing Sunday at Vinyl Tap at 6. Yeah, nice. And and there are a couple of other dates on there that you've just now reminded me that I should probably put on my website. It just becomes a thing where you announce it and maybe like on your social stuff and feel like that's enough because it feels like that's the only place that people really go to look for it. And I only have a few more shows this year, but I should put them up on my website. I'm doing just a couple of things in Mississippi, Jackson and Oxford, kind of hometown returns for me on the 9th and 10th of November and the 13th at another vinyl place. It's called Vinyl Lounge in the Center Stage area in Atlanta. There's a place called Center Stage, and one of the smaller venues is called Vinyl Lounge, and I'm playing there with this guy, Johnny Delaware. And that's really it for me solo for the rest of the year. And I think that honestly, I've just kind of had a pretty exhausting year. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. I just, one of my least favorite things about, touring all the time was the constant feeling of obligation to keep up the website dates. Oh my God, yeah. This is the worst part of my life. Yeah. It's part of what drove me to writing books because it's just like slower and I don't have to update my website all the time. And I also, though, I remember I had a very strong identification of my own personal self-worth that was tantamount to the number of dates I had on my website. Like if I would look at my website, I'd be like, okay, there's 20 dates up there. I have a job. I am an artist. I am doing the thing that I said that I would do. And that was one of the hardest things about sort of this weird transition I find myself in right now of just like watching that kind of dwindle away. And then, now I don't have any shows scheduled actually. And I'm kind of okay with that, but I had to like learn how to be okay with not seeing a bunch of, cause it's all an illusion in a way. But there is something, something validating to be about like, okay, well I have these shows to look forward to. I am going to be doing this stuff. But the other side of that was that, God, I hated updating my website. Yeah, I still do. So it's nice to know that, maybe it's not as important as I'll still do it though.
I mean, I don't know. Yeah. There's also, I'm really glad that you said that, tying self-worth, and especially I think it's especially hard for, the first name, last name, solo, singer-songwriter, because it is our name. Mm-hmm. So our name is on the stamp of the artist and the stamp of the person. And sometimes we don't know how to separate those two. And I feel like part of my momentum is because I feel like I have to. Mm-hmm. And that can be good for just my work ethic of trying to get up and work on songs, but also bad for my mental health in a way where sometimes I wake up and go, I'm not doing enough, or I've missed these details, like the update on my website.
Sorry, I didn't mean to do anything to you. But...
No, it's okay. It's okay. Like, because this is a space where I don't need to care about that. But that's really the unfortunate part about our modern day music industry, whatever we are doing right now. It has honestly, in a lot of ways, put kind of a bad taste in my mouth, because I, like you, am more of a private person. Like you, I do record myself announcing something and then don't ever post it, because I just don't like to be vulnerable like that. Mm-hmm. Because the vulnerability really lies in the song, but I know that I have to put things out there for people to know that I exist. So it's just like this perpetual thing that we keep riding, and I sometimes question whether or not I want to keep riding it or find a different medium to explore art, so music can kind of like be on a shelf that is more precious to me, as opposed to me just trying to like squeeze
a couple bucks out of it.
Yeah. Squeeze a couple bucks out of it. Yeah. And so I've definitely reckoned with playing with Futurebirds, and I'm like, well, this takes up all my time. If I had more time, then I could do more solo stuff. But I'm like, do I want more time to do more solo stuff? Am I gonna just sit at home and stare into the void? Mm-hmm. And I don't really know what the answer to that is.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of a touchy part of my journey at this very moment, on this very day that we're recording this. And I just want to be honest with you.
Yeah. I can relate and totally understand. And it's interesting because I commonly will ask guests of this podcast, there'll be some aspect often about like how you negotiate like the obligation of doing social media, and how, some people really embrace the answers are as varied as there are artists. Mm-hmm. Some people are really, it's just part of my way of expressing, I just choose to embrace that. And that's part of how I am an artist, is to like, you know what? I don't like doing it, and I found this little thing that I do. Like, there's a friend of mine who's we taped recently, and he's got a yo-yo sponsorship because he got good at yo-yo tricks, and now it kind of made it so that it was fun for him to post, because he just posts like yo-yo tricks, and he tags the yo-yo sponsor in oh, by the way, I'm playing this show and this show and this show. But it's like, how we make it fun, because otherwise it's not fun. And, for me, I'm Gen Xer guy, and I came up, I didn't grow up with a phone. I didn't even have a phone or a computer in college. And Facebook I was 30 when Facebook started. You know what I mean? So I'm just like, it's very uncomfortable, I think, for my generation in general, to just sort of embrace this media. And then you see just like, it's so visually driven with like Instagram. It's like, it's a beautiful young person's game. And so how to age gracefully in this very, in some way, shallow business, and yet have to promote yourself is a challenge for everybody. So I'm always interested in the answer. I think that everybody has a complicated relationship with the obligation to announce yourself everywhere you go.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Gone are the days of those when you were on a label and you could just be withdrawn and mysterious, and you know, a whole bank of marketing people just took care of the pictures and the billboards. And I think about that with like Bruce, you know, Springsteen's a great example of just like, he had a couple of iconic, you know, photos. Dude was talented for days, but you know, he didn't have to hand out flyers to his own shows.
Yeah. I mean, it's not until now, probably because some sort of marketing team got him to do it, you know, but now he's like, hey, Belgium, I'm going to be over there, you know. But it's not until now that he's even doing something like that. And it, you know, the answer most of the time from a lot of other people is kind of like, just do it. You just have to find a way to do it, even if you just record yourself and just forget that it's even there. But it almost feels like it doesn't feel as it doesn't feel precious anymore. And like I'm doing a deluxe edition of The Joke of Life coming out on November 22nd, and we have a plan, and we have videos that are already filmed. And I'm like, oh, thank God. All I have to do is just each day, whenever the day comes, just post the video that we've already done. Me like playing in a nice studio with a band. It sounds good. It looks good. Don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's such a relief.
You don't have to wake up and think about what to do that day. I think that's really that's awesome. Kudos to you or whoever it is on your team that kind of curated that in advance of the posting. Because I think that's one thing that's really hard for so many independent artists to do, is to plan that ahead of time. I noticed that we all have this inclination of like, the giddiness of when you wrote a song, you kind of want to post it immediately. Maybe you do. Maybe that's fine. You know, I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with that. But I think that the spirit of wanting to cash in as quickly as possible on the art that you just made, is common. And also it creates a situation where you have no plan, and you wake up every day and you're like, oh, what today? Oh, what today? Oh, what today? And that is a terrible way to grow as an artist. It's like, in terms of just like, I hate to say this, but on some level, if you do choose the evil of trying to squeeze a few bucks out of your precious art, then you are a business. And if you are a business, then you need to grow your business. And you don't grow your business by inventing yourself every day. You grow your business by having some strategies in place and just sticking with the plan. And I say this as somebody who's terrible at that. I marvel at artists who are innately more gifted or more disciplined to behave in a business-like manner, and who are incidentally wonderful artists as well. But I think that we all have to sort of make peace with that. And insofar as the social media posting is an aspect of the business, then okay, if you are in business. If you're not, then fine. If you just want to make beautiful songs and have a straight job, God, there's no shame in that at all. And in some ways, way better.
Yeah.
But if you're cursed to try to do this and pay rent, it's really great. You know what? One thing I've just discovered, I just throw this out there, is because the podcast is a part of my business, and Jared and I are getting better at kind of having some throughput going here. But one thing that's been amazing, and just like such a brand new discovery for me that I'm barely able to speak about it, even with the slightest bit of intelligence, but scheduling poster applications where you just like have a thing and you're not like on your phone making a post to Instagram and then whatever, but you just like, it's on your website and you have the content that you've made and you just like you put it up there and you just like have it post out to all of these things. And you can even write write the caption, you can write the first comment, you can like, the one that I use, like if I'm doing an Instagram one, I can add the collab request in there, and I'm like not on my phone when I do it. And even I only just did this one round. We just posted our first one yesterday with the latest episode, and it was kind of cool to like wake up. I was like actually taking a nap, and I woke up and I'm like, it said I had been tagged in something. I'm like, what? And I look and I'm like, oh, that's that thing I scheduled 3 days ago. Oh. And I wasn't on I didn't have to be on my phone, because every time you open up the application. I say this is an idiot as susceptible to endless distractions as everybody else. Like the second I'm like, oh, I need to post that thing, and I open up Instagram, all of a sudden it's 20 minutes. You know what I mean? I'm just, it's such a time suck. So like having this application that I'm not on the thing,
not
and
on the phone, you're on the laptop.
I'm on the laptop, and I'm just like, ding, 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 and I schedule it all out, and I can schedule it out. Like right now, we can schedule out content for weeks ahead, and I don't have to be on my phone. I don't have to be distracted. It's just a task I do, and it's just faster to work on your laptop too. So I'm really excited about exploring that, and I'm just throwing that out there to anybody, being like, you know, maybe that's something to look at. I use
show me later. Keep it a secret.
Okay, I'll
tell
no
you. One.
Okay, it's our secret. Spencer Thomas, dude, thank you so much for your time. This has been so great, as great as I hoped it would be.
Thank you.
You're a true artist and a journeyer, and I wish you the best. And I can't wait to have you back.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man.
The Morse Code Podcast is produced by Corby Linker and Jared Hammond in East Nashville, Tennessee. Our executive producer is Randa Newman. You can find full videos for this and all previous episodes at morsecodepodcast.com.